Hey everyone. Okay, what do Sam Bradford, A.J McCarran, Tim Tebow, Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota all have in common? What they all have in common is that they were at one point in their careers the nation's leaders in passing efficiency, and they each wound up starting for an NFL team. That means that the best predictor of quarterback success is the NCAA Passing Efficiency Rankings. Now, the Passing Efficiency Rankings started to be recorded in 2004. In some cases, like Sam Bradford, he was the number one leader in consecutive years. Others, like for example Kellen Moore, who was also a leader in 2010 specifically and started for the Dallas Cowboys for a point last year, was number one, and then the year before that, 2009, if memory serves, he was the second. The point is that if you're looking for not just a predictor of future success of college quarterbacks into the NFL, but a way to determine, how good our selections of who is going to be better in the future or later in the after the draft were, look at those efficiency rankings based and then where they wound up. Overall, if you take a look at quarterbacks like, for example, Andrew Luck, who was within the top three, or Cam Newton, again within the top three. In fact, he was just behind Luck in the same year that Russell Wilson was number one. But the point that I'm making is that if you take a look at those comparisons, you'll find that for those quarterbacks going back who've placed within the top three over the period of time that I'm talking about, using the NCAA Passing Efficiency Rankings, 84% of the time, those quarterbacks have started for an NFL team. Then, if you want to stretch out the list and look at the top 10 or the top 20, you find names like Derek Carr, and you'll find other names as well of players that have come in the league and been very successful. In fact, in 2013, there was a logjam at quarterback in the top 10. You had Teddy Bridgewater, Blake Bortles, to name some of the notables that have went on to start for teams in the NFL, specifically the Minnesota Vikings and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Okay, so with all that, how does this year's quarterback draft class stack up? Great question. The number one is Seth Rogers from Baylor, but he is a junior who's elected to stay in school. So who's number two? Vernon Adams of Oregon. And number three, Brad Doughty of Western Kentucky. And not only that, Doughty was not only the number three behind Adams this year, he was the number two last year in passing efficiency. So keep that name in mind. He played in the Senior Bowl, and then no one's talked about him. In the way things are going in the draft, he will more than likely be a third or fourth round pick. But let's see how he does. Because if these statistics are as robust as they have been in the recent past, you're going to be looking at Mr. Doughty starting for a team. Now you would say, what about Jared Goff or Paxton Lynch or Carson Wentz? Excellent question. Jared Goff was number 9 last year, and Paxton Lynch was close behind him at number 11. Not too shabby. Not too shabby. Because if you're looking for other notables who've been in that area, Matt Leinart was number 7, and Aaron Rodgers was number 8. Those are the years that they were on the list, which go back to 2004 at that point. So Jared Goff has good company in that range, as does Paxton Lynch. So you can say, hey, look, if I take some of the top 10, generally I can't go wrong. And you can't. That's a pretty good predictor. In fact, it's an excellent predictor. Hey, 80%? Think about it. 80% for the number one and the 84% for the top three. And if we extrapolate, we're probably going to get someplace, we extend the list to look at the top 10 or the top 15, we'll probably get somewhere in the neighborhood of 65%. 66% is a statistical sure thing, if you remember statistics. If you took a statistics class, excuse me. But the bottom line is, that is the best predictor of how a college quarterback will do in the National Football League. And you can use that to test how well other prognosticators have done. I'm not doing that here. I'm just saying you can use that. And you can also use that to say, how come some quarterbacks like Mr. Dowdy of Western Kentucky are not being talked about more? It would be a great question. More on this later.